All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just to let everybody know where we are in a three-part Copilot webinar series. The first two was a basic, or the first was a basic, the second was an intermediate, and today is our advanced Microsoft Copilot prompts webinar. We only have about 50 minutes, so we're not going to be able to do super big deep dives, but I'm going to illustrate some advanced prompts that Copilot can help you do some heavy lifting with. So basically, I just real quick, I'm John Cooper. I'm the founder and CEO of Total Secure Technology. Total Secure Technology is hosting this webinar. Basically, Total Secure Technology is your complete IT department. We were founded in 1999 to help small businesses get the most out of technology. So today's agenda, what we're going to be covering is a quick recap of the basics and intermediate sessions that we've already done. Super brief, to be frank. And then we're going to get into some advanced prompts and mindsets and frameworks around teams within Teams, within Word, within Excel, and within PowerPoint. And we'll be talking about some prompt chaining and multiple step workflows and building an advanced prompt library. So who's this session? Pardon me. Just a real quick recap of what we went over in the Copilot Basics webinar was what kind of quick wins you can get within each app, right? We also talked about pricing and licensing Copilot, and how that works in terms of making sure that you're set up for success to get the most out of Microsoft Copilot. In the intermediate, we talked about workflows and starting to build playbooks. We also talked about, in that session, some best practices around Teams meetings was to be recording every meeting. So we did that last webinar about 3 weeks ago. So hopefully, if you're back again, you maybe started recording all your Teams meetings so that we could actually use Copilot in an intuitive way. And today we're going to talk about, the fact that since we are recording, right, Total Secure Technology has been recording all of our teams meetings, all of our department meetings, all of our EOS meetings, our IDS meetings, our level 10 meetings. We've been recording all of those meetings for the past year. So we're able to really lean into Microsoft Copilot within Teams now. And then the goal today is to turn Copilot into a real competitive advantage. So who this session is for: leaders and power users already using Copilot regularly, teams who want more consistency and higher quality output, organizations planning to standardize prompts and playbooks, and anyone ready to move from experimentation into optimization. So, real quick, in our intermediate takeaways from our last session, we talked about better prompts, right? Giving Copilot who the audience is, what the objective is, the tone that you'd like to use, and how much, and the length of the product that you'd like it to produce. We also talked about workflows in Teams, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. role-based Copilot playbooks for repeatable scenarios, and then the guardrails. Right? Humans have to approve. You can't just go to market with what Copilot is producing. Copilot is built on ChatGPT. It's leveraging ChatGPT for its large language model, and ChatGPT or any large language model can hallucinate, right? You can trust, but you need to verify. So that's how that works. Today we're going to be talking about advanced prompt mindsets. Think like a prompt designer, not a casual user. You control the context, the constraints, and the formats. Prompts are reusable assets, not one-time questions. That's super important. Back in the day, prior to Microsoft 365, right, a lot of people would hold frequently emailed people in their Outlook drop-down list, right? You start typing their name, and it would autofill the email address. That was not meant to be an address book, right? That was not meant to store contacts. That information was not always going to be available to you. We probably don't want to assume all of your prompt history will always be available to you in Copilot. I'm going to show you where it lives today, but we don't want to assume that that data will always be available to us. So creating playbooks is a much better go-to-market scenario for that. So anyways, so advanced prompt framework, what's it look like, right? Who's Copilot acting as? Who do you want Copilot to be? Do you want it to be the CFO, right? Do you want it to be the CEO? Do you want it to be the CIO? Advanced prompt framework starts with that, like who are you asking Copilot to be? And then you have context, what it should know, right? The documents, the audience, the constraints. So you can point it to your SharePoint library to say, hey, look in this folder for these particular documents, or just give it a particular document and tell it that you want that document rewritten for a particular audience, and then let it know what the constraints are. So tasks, what you want done. Do you want the data analyzed? Do you want it to create a new draft? Do you want it to critique a plan that you're proposing? And then guardrails. There's limits and assumptions and things that you want to avoid. You don't want to just go to market with what it produces. It needs to be verified, okay? Basic prompts versus advanced prompt examples. So a basic prompt would be in Copilot, and I'm going to show you a Word document that we're going to use, but let's just say we're in Word. You can ask Copilot to summarize an incident report on a particular Word document. Let's say you got an incident report in a Word document. You can ask it to summarize that report. That would be a very basic prompt. Or you can ask Copilot, you are a virtual CISO, summarize this incident report for a non-technical CEO in 5 bullets for impact, root cause, what we decided, and remaining risks, and any next steps. Advanced prompts set role, audience, structure, and focus. That's what advanced prompts will do, right? They're just more sophisticated prompts with more data that you're able to give it. It can reach into your SharePoint data for past meetings or documents. So we want to be clear that using Copilot in an advanced way is not just it working on the document that you're looking at. It can actually go back and review history. Advanced prompt or advanced patterns in teams. So we're going to kind of look at some real world scenarios. I think I've mentioned that we've been recording Teams meetings for over 12 months now, so we have a lot of data. But what we're going to illustrate today is rolling up across multiple meetings and channels, looking for common themes in particular meetings. Today we're going to tee up our actual leadership meeting. So it's not going to be, we're not going to be revealing a whole lot of proprietary data, right? I'm going to scroll through it relatively quickly. But we're also going to turn ongoing discussions into decision logs and risk registers. So Copilot can help us make decisions. What are the 5 things that this leadership team should be focusing on based on what you've heard in the past 5 leadership meetings? Generate targeted updates for different audiences, executive team, a board meeting, and then prepare questions and follow-ups for the next meeting. So here we're going to get into, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a second and reshare I'm going to stop the slideshow and I'm going to share my Teams, meeting, and we're going to give it some prompts that will help us identify patterns or decision owners and statuses on things that we've decided to do within the leadership meeting. Okay, so we're leveraging Copilot in Teams right now, and I'm asking Copilot from our last 4 leadership meetings, build a discussion log with dates, decisions, owners, and status. So we're going to see what it comes back with. I haven't prompted it for this yet, so hopefully it's not going to hiccup. You may recall we had a few hiccups on the first Copilot webinar. Copilot was not wanting to cooperate. So if you're leveraging Copilot, you can tell it to pull from your work history, or you can tell it to pull from the web. And right now I'm working based on what it knows about our organization and the recorded leadership meetings that it knows that we've had. So you can see it's going out and it's gathering data. We're going to see what the output here is in just a second. Sometimes it takes a long time, especially when it's trying to pull a lot of data. So it says I found 99 reoccurring leadership meetings. Entries on your calendar. Below is a decision log from the last 4 meetings. That's January 23rd, January 16th, January 9th, and December 26th. Where the owner or status wasn't explicitly captured, the source, I've left it to be determined so you can confirm. So you can see here that it's gone through all of the leadership meetings, the last 4 that I asked it to go through. Obviously, it could go through 99 if we wanted it to. And it's talking about the things that were decided on in those meetings. So meeting recording summaries. So basically, it's telling us where it's getting its source. So if you're leveraging Microsoft Copilot with the I think it's $30 a month license, it's going to hold this data for you because you're using Copilot in that vein to record these meetings, and it's going to hold that information for a period of time. So this is where it's telling us the data gaps. Owners were not explicitly assigned in the available material. Some of the statuses are inferred from phrasing like agreed, confirmed, planned. Would you like me to save this to a shared Excel file? I don't, because just for the sake of time. But you can see here that it's confirmed some things that we've actually talked about, right? It's not giving it an owner. We can do that on our own. One of the things with a recorded Teams meeting, we are leveraging a recorded Teams meeting in a conference room with a web camera. So we're all in the same room. So Teams doesn't necessarily always know who's speaking. That is a little bit of a delta. If you're a remote team and you're doing all your leadership meetings or any departmental meetings and everybody's logged into Teams, it's going to know who said what when. But when we're leveraging a Microsoft Teams meeting in a boardroom, which is how we do it for our leadership meeting anyways, that meeting's not going to know who's speaking because only one person's logged in and we're recording that meeting. So anyway, so that's one prompt. So we'll give it another prompt. Copy. I just want to be respectful of time. We can't really spend more than like 5 or 6 minutes on any one area: Teams, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. So I'm asking it, review the leadership channel and the last month's meetings and list the top 10 reoccurring risks with owners. So now it's going to think through that prompt. But the idea here is when you find a prompt that's powerful, that will help you move the needle in your organization, you want to document that prompt in a library, right? You want to make that prompt available to your teams, right? So towards the end, we're going to show you how you can build a prompt channel. So we'll get into that here in a second. Over here in the top right-hand corner, you can see that you can ask Copilot to give you a quick response, an auto response, or a deep thinking response. A deep thinking response is going to sometimes have a 5 to 10 minute wait until it gives you back maybe what it is that you're looking for. It wants to make sure that it has a lot of data. So, but you can make it come back with quicker issues. So, right, in our last meeting, it talked about TBR engagement and the value gaps, onboarding scope, creeps and distractions, and ad hoc requests, inconsistent capture placement of meeting notes, why it matters, right? So basically, it's telling you the things that you probably need to be focusing on, that the issues that you might want to create some boundaries around with respect to these common themes that that Copilot is capturing. So anyways, so I'm going to get back to my slideshow here. Play from current slide. Okay, so I'm back into the slideshow. So that was some Teams prompts. Next, we're going to talk about some Word document prompts. We're going to talk about transform one source into multiple tailored outputs. We're going to ask Copilot to critique and strengthen arguments, not just summarize. These are all things that you can do. I don't know that I'll have time to do every one of them, but we're going to do a few. And then you can ask it to co-create policies, SOPs, and client-ready documents faster. We are really getting a lot of use out of Microsoft Copilot with this, with respect to creating SOPs around how we want new employees to engage with clients. So we have a lot of documentation around how we go to market with a particular deliverable in our stack. So an example of some word advanced prompts, right? You're going to ask Copilot to act like an editor, review this proposal, and highlight weak arguments, missing data, and unclear sections. Rewrite this section for a non-technical audience, keeping it to 2 short paragraphs, right? We probably aren't going to work on that prompt today, but using the style and tone in the same sample paragraph, rewrite the rest of the document to match. So again, I'm going to stop sharing here, or I'm going to stop the show, and I'm going to get into a Word document that we have prepped. So this is a 197-page Word document that we're looking at right now. And I have a prompt ready that I'm going to use. So the prompt says, act like an editor, review this report, and highlight weak arguments, missing data, and unclear sections. Okay, so I'm going to click go. And basically, Copilot's going to think. And again, right now I'm having it not go out to the web, right? I can give Copilot a prompt, and I can have it, source its reasoning based on my SharePoint data or based on what's available on the World Wide Web. We're probably going to get quicker responses if it's not going out to the web. My next prompt was the one that was really helpful, but we're going to get into. So again, we asked it, Copilot, act like an editor, review this report, and highlight weak arguments, missing data, and unclear sections. Okay, so it did that, right? It's an editorial review of the network assessment report. There's nothing proprietary in this report, so we don't have to worry about sharing it on this webinar. This was sample data. This was a sample report. So, but basically, it's done exactly what we've asked it to do. It's got missing or weak high-level narrative, no executive summary, right? So the discovery task, major incompleteness, task incompletion. So I want to say that this document that we're having Copilot review is a super technical document. It's meant for someone with high-level technical acumen. It's not, and it's meant to show glaring defects in a client environment's network, right? So it's not meant to not have incompleteness, right? It's not meant to be an executive summary. But with the power of Copilot, right, we can take what's in this report, and we can ask it to summarize it for an executive. So I'm going to do that here in just a second, but I just want to review the rest of the results. Raw data with no supporting analysis. And it gives examples. Inconsistent or contradictory data. service account section, right? And it's telling you where you can find what it's calling out. Patch summary, endpoint security, missing explanation, right? So this report is not explaining why patch management is important. Technical clarity and communication gaps, right? And it goes on, and then it gives a summary of the weaknesses, right? So, but here's what I love about Copilot. Okay, I'm going to give it this next prompt, which is way more powerful. So now I'm asking Copilot for this very technical, almost 200-page technical document that we would give to an engineer on our team and say, hey, remediate these issues within the first 90 days of onboarding a client, right? So this is something very technical that a technical person would appreciate, okay? But now I'm telling Copilot, rewrite this document as an executive summary for a non-technical C-level board meeting, and also provide me with a complete agenda to prepare the board for what will be discussed, okay? So, Copilot's thinking. I did not have it go out to the World Wide Web. It takes a little bit longer when we do that, but it could pull in information on why some things are important based on what it finds on the World Wide Web. So, but right now it's just looking at SharePoint data. So it's not done yet. You can see the cursors moving up there. So it's probably almost done. So below is a clear, polished executive summary suitable for a non-technical C-level board meeting, followed by a complete board-ready agenda. I've written everything using business language focused on high risk, impact, and strategic priorities, avoiding technical depth unless tied to business outcomes. If you'd like, I can also generate a PowerPoint version with speaker notes and one-page briefing memo. We're not going to do that right now, but we could come back to that when we do the Copilot, right? So we know we could have that in our back pocket, but this is what it produced, right? So this assessment, this is an executive level summary on that 200-page report. This assessment provides a high-level evaluation of the organization's IT environment, including security posture, system health, user and device management, and overall operational maturity. While the technical infrastructure is broadly functional, the review identified a series of risks, inefficiencies, and aging systems that require strategic attention, right? And then it goes into each category: overall technology health, your security posture, right? I'm not going to read all of this, but we got our executive summary, and best of all, right, we have a board meeting agenda that we can provide to this board prior to the meeting, right? So the board ready agenda, and then have opening remarks and objectives. 2, we're going to cover organizational health. It's going to take 10 minutes. Cybersecurity risk overview, 15 minutes. Infrastructure, age, and life cycle analysis of the client's particular hardware. Governance and operational practices. Strategic prioritization, right? So we're gonna illustrate, the lowest hanging fruit is going to get handled first. And then board discussions, next steps. And then Copilot's, trying to be more helpful. Would you like me to convert this into a slide deck? Create a one-page executive briefing, prioritize risks in yellow, green, and red, yellow, or green. So anyways, so that's a great example of Copilot prompts. I'm going to keep going here. So advanced patterns in Excel, right? Multi-step analysis and a single point prompt. Scenario comparisons and what if narratives for leadership. Ask Copilot to suggest KPIs, charts, and questions you should be asking. And then turn raw data into decision-ready talking points, right? These are all things that Copilot can help with. So what is the difference between, or what does an Excel advanced Copilot prompt look like, right? So check this data, right? So one obvious one is check this data for obvious quality issues or outliers and describe what you find, okay? Summarize the top 5 trends, then identify 3 underperforming segments and possible causes. And then last, simulate a 10% drop in revenue for the lowest performing regions and explain the impact in plain language. So, so those are the Copilot prompts that we're going to try now. Again, I'm going to end the show for a second. We're going to go over to Excel where we have some data. That's not the data I want. So let's see. Okay, so we have some dummy sales data here. Okay, so getting back to my prompts. So I'm not going to check for obvious. I'm not going to check for obvious because this is a pretty, this isn't a super complex spreadsheet here, okay? So I'm not going to ask it to look for obvious quality issues, not on this one. I can come back to that, but I'm going to copy this prompt. I'm going to open Copilot. Again, Copilot is a button within each application that you're using, right? So it's a button in Word, it's a button in Excel, it's a button in, so I'm going to click the Copilot button. It's going to pull Copilot up over here. I'm going to paste the prompt. Summarize the top 5 strengths, the top 5 trends, and then identify 3 underperforming segments and possible causes. So let's see what it comes up with. Just so you know, this is dummy sales data from an organization that has 3 or 4, I'm sorry, 5 territories. So Copilot says, got it, happy to do this. To make the summary accurate, I need to know which data set time frame you're looking for. Yeah, I was having this problem before. Yeah. So I'm going to grab that spreadsheet and give it that spreadsheet. For some reason, it was not wanting to look at the data. So my prompt files, dummy sales data, open. I'm going to give it that prompt again. Control V. Like anything else that's Microsoft, it doesn't always play well, right? There's little hiccups. You got to find workarounds. But actually, you know what? I'm not going to use this prompt. I'm going to use a different prompt just for, this is, in my opinion, this is probably the better prompt for this particular data set. Okay, so my new prompt says, simulate a 10% drop in revenue for the lowest performing region. I'm going to put territory because that's what it says in the spreadsheet. Okay, so the prompt says, simulate a 10% drop in revenue for the lowest performing territory and explain the impact in plain language. All right. So it's looking at the spreadsheet. Why it's not pulling from the data set on the left, I'm not exactly sure, but I was having that issue prior to the call or prior to the webinar starting. So we'll just do what Copilot was asking and give it a data set. Okay, so what I simulated, I identified the lowest performing territory by total revenue, which was West. Then I applied a 10% drop to that territory and recalculated company total and West's share of the revenue. The before and after glance. Company revenue before was $1 million. After the 10% drop was $1,063,000. After the drop, the 10% drop, it was $1,050,000. Company-wide change, 1.24% across the enterprise, right? That's how it's going to affect the entire enterprise's top line revenue by 1.24% if there was a 10% drop in the lowest territory. So anyways, it goes on to tell, right? And then it explains it in plain English, just like we ask it to. And then down at the bottom here, it's trying to be helpful again, right? So if you want, I can produce a one pager with a sensitive table or with a sensitivity table, 5, 10, 15% in that particular territory's decline, and a quick margin scenario. So anyways, you can tell it, yes, create that one pager, right? You can just click this button and tell it to click that one pager, and basically it puts that prompt in there for you. I'm not going to do that just for the sake of time. We're at 10:42, and we're running tight on time, so I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to play from the current slide. So that was the Excel advanced prompts. PowerPoint, right? Advanced pattern PowerPoint prompts. Tailor one core deck for multiple audiences, executive, technical, and users. These are some example PowerPoint prompts. Ask Copilot to propose story arc, transitions, and visual emphasis. Generate or refine speaker notes to match the speaker's style. Create variants, short briefing, details, and workshops. So I actually have a Copilot deck a PowerPoint deck that I was going to use for the prompt. I'm just going to pull it up here. This is a webinar that we did. I might not be able to have two PowerPoints. Oh, here we go. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, it's not going to play nice. So basically what I can do is I can probably just kind of illustrate, maybe not in, let me end the show. I'm going to pull the deck over that we're actually working from. So I'm going to pull this over here. So this was the starter deck that I used Microsoft Copilot to help me build this Microsoft Copilot Advanced Prompts. You can see here that it has no speaker notes. So, but yeah, in mine that I'm doing live, I have great speaker notes. So anyways, let me go back to my prompts. And it says, I'm going to find create more technical version. Okay, so one of the prompts that we're going to use here, copy, is Control V, draft speaker notes for each slide in a conversational, confident tone matching TST's voice. Okay, so for slide 1, basically this is the speaker notes that it gave me. So I can easily copy, Control C, and paste those over here. So basically this is based on the slides, it's giving me the narrative, right, of what we want to say on each slide deck that we're sharing. So we are at 10:47, so we're getting close to the end here. I'm going to run out of time. I'm probably not going to do any more Copilot prompts. I'm going to close this window and play from current slide. Okay, so I'm going to get back into the presentation here, or the webinar. So basically now what I kind of want to do is to connect the dots and show you how all this plays together in a chain. If you remember nothing else from this advanced session, we want you to kind of understand that we're asking Copilot to draft, critique, improve, reformat, and finalize, right? So it's giving you the finished product. This webinar that I'm doing right now was 100% created leveraging Microsoft Copilot. I'm going to end the show real quick. I'm going to show you that basically Microsoft Copilot has given me, has given me all the speaker notes, right? It's basically articulated the message that I need to give for this Microsoft Copilot Advanced webinar. So it was super helpful. It's not perfect, right? I do not want to communicate that it's perfect, and I have to double check its work. So, but it helps me finalize a product. We can ask Copilot to review its own output and suggest improvements. We can chain work across apps. So what does that mean? It can look at meetings. It can summarize emails. It can like pull emails and meetings together. You can document successful change as reusable workflows in your playbooks. So getting back to what I was saying earlier in the webinar was we don't want things to live I'm going to go back to my prompting, to my prompts. So in Microsoft Copilot, you have all your previous prompts, right? This is great to pull from, right? So these are my past prompts that I've used within Word, okay? Or maybe even other applications, all right? So, but the point that I want to make is you don't want to let good prompts live or die in this prompt section, okay? You don't necessarily know how long that data is going to be available to you, right? It's no different than storing your contact list in that Outlook dropdown because it memorizes the last 100 people that you've emailed. That's not a place for that information to live. Nor is this a great repository, right? It's convenient, right? That dropdown in Outlook is meant to be convenient. It knows when it knows if it recognizes an address that you sent to, it will put it in for you. This works the same way. This should not be thought of as a a playbook. You want your best prompts in either in SharePoint, in OneNote, in you don't want to let it live in this very temporary repository here within Copilot. So I'm going to reduce this back down. So anyways, yeah, you want to be successful with useful Copilot prompts and assume that they might not be available to you in the future if you let them live there. You want to develop playbooks. Basically, brand voice and style in Copilot, define your voice anchor prompt for your organization. Example, right? Clear, confident, security first, no fluff, conversational but professional. Ask Copilot to rewrite drafts in, so this is for us, right? In total secure technologies tone, right? We are constantly attempting to articulate to our clients how important IT security is and how much goes into managing IT security, right? So that's the tone that a lot of our communication is going to have. Use consistent voice prompts so all communications feel on brand. So control and quality control and safety prompts. Tell Copilot to list assumptions and unknowns at the end of its answer. Ask it to act as a reviewer and flag risky and unclear statements. So you can use it as an editor, right? We talked about that earlier. It can be an editor in chief. Instruct it not to invent data and to say, I don't know, when information is missing. And then use patterns for sensitive communication and external messaging. So we're about to wrap up here, right? We want to build a prompt library. This is how Copilot professionals are using it, right? You want departmental libraries for your team. So if you have a service team, they need a departmental Copilot prompt library. And that's shared throughout the team, right? I think we're up to like 13 technicians right now, right? They're all largely working on the same types of problems every day, right? We want them building prompting libraries based around things that they're getting quick wins around. So, and we don't want each one of them to have to reinvent the wheel when trying to develop a prompt, right? So that's why we're setting up these libraries. And then store them in Teams, SharePoint, OneNote, right, where everybody is already working. You can version them. You can put version 1 or version 2, capture feedback for improvement. But these are living, breathing documents that are helping people get further faster. And then train teams to start the library instead of reinventing prompts every time, right? We just kind of talked about that. Okay, so how can TST help operationalize Copilot, right? Well, we can help design advanced prompt libraries tailored. Technically, we're going to be providing you the repositories, right? We can set you up with a templated Copilot repository that you guys can basically start storing your prompts in. We got to be careful about prompts and where it's pulling data from. It needs to be in a certain permission structure. So, because you don't want anybody to be able to leverage Copilot to pull from HR documents, right? So anyways, there's those considerations that need to be made. Review security governance and change management for Copilot usage, and then measure adoption, business impact as our clients' complete IT department. All right, so questions and answers. Brett, looks like we got 3 minutes.
Yeah, we had a question come in, and I think you addressed maybe a little bit of it in a couple of slides ago, but um, one question is, how do you recommend using Copilot to standardize SOPs or admin workflows without over automating huge human judgment?
Yeah. So in Microsoft Teams, if you have a Copilot license, you can you can record basically what you're doing. Like, so you can turn on a Teams recording while you're doing a particular workflow, right? And you can talk as you're. I'm actively coaching my team on this right now. So you're leveraging Teams. You are recording your screen and your voice, and you're you're basically narrating your workflow. Okay, so you're using Teams, you're narrating your workflow, you're taking that Teams meeting that was with yourself only, right? And it basically has your screenshots, or it has your a screen capture turned on, right? Because you're sharing your screen to Teams, you're working through your workflows, and you're narrating the process behind what it is that you're doing. You can take those recaps of those team meetings that were only with yourself, and you can ask it to help you build uh, standard operating procedures for every department. We're actively coaching our team on this now. We have a ton of SOPs that were written manually. This is saving us hundreds of hours across our entire team because we're leveraging SOP building around recorded individual team meetings, not a meeting with other coworkers, but a recorded Teams meeting of a workflow. Hopefully that answered the question. That was a long-winded answer. Apologize. You guys, we are at the hour, and I don't want to hold anybody up. I super appreciate your time. We're not going to make it hard to get a hold of Brett Farrell. He's our business technology advisor on staff. He can help you with any type of technology problem that you maybe want to walk through. Brett's your go-to person there. Again, we're not going to make it hard to get a hold of us. There's going to be a recap email go out about this webinar with a link to the recording. In that follow-up email, we will make it super easy to get a hold of us. I super appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, which will likely be in the first quarter, or I'm sorry, in the second quarter of 2026, and it'll be around Microsoft Studio agents, leveraging CFO agents, leveraging HR agents within Microsoft Copilot, which is available today. And we're going to be talking about that in the second quarter of 2026. All right, thanks, and have a great day.